Hello, swordly grinding, yeah. Cause I have no work today. That's why I'm grinding. And I need to finish this fogan thing by today, at least. Because it's not fun grinding here. There's no money. You need to run around. I need to start doing my season. Because I need loot scrolls. Yeah, we have drop rate event. That's why I'm rushing it today. So I can chill tomorrow onwards. Because if I just PO from market, it's gonna take so long. Especially people don't really actually grind the blue shards often. People still do list the yellow one, but I have the yellow one, but I'm not using the yellow one. I'll stay Thornwood. Why? Why Thornwood? I'm looking for ominous. Damn. Lucky you. Every time I go there, it's either I get none or I get one. That's why I hate going to room. Like my RNG for ominous is extremely bad. Even the dark portal thingy that spawn the mobs, that only I think I only get like one per hour, and it sucks. Never going back there again. So how's Berserker? I heard from Warlock you also use Berserker in season. Need some feedback right here. You got a heart? Damn. I need a heart. One more heart. Need it for my maneuver. So confused on skill, my muscle memory bad. Let's see. 早上好，我的朋友。Hey, what's up? Damn, I can't believe I actually read that. Damn, I almost forget how to read Chinese. Cause I haven't been using it lately.
Jadi, gue sekeluarga lagi liburan di Adelaide, Australia. Di video kali ini kita akan jalan ke pantai, mencoba nonton stand up comedy, dan ditutup dengan makanan legendaris di kota ini. Selamat menonton.
Kita berhenti di sini. Nggak kebawa angin kok.
Di sini untuk naik tram tinggal scan kartu yang kita punya atau beli tiketnya dengan handphone. Yang menarik tidak ada petugas yang jaga di sini. Jadi ya kesadaran sendiri aja untuk beli tiketnya.
Aca mau ke pantai.
Waktu gua kuliah di sini 20 tahun yang lalu, tramnya masih pakai yang vintage seperti ini. Sekarang udah berubah jadi modern semua.
Aca, lihat ada burung mandi, Ca. Burungnya mandi. Burung jangan mandi, bilang gitu, Ca.
Glenelg adalah pemukiman Eropa tertua di Australia Selatan. Awalnya dibangun tahun 1836, makanya banyak bangunan tua di sini. Dulu gue sering kesini waktu musim panas atau semi, tapi sekarang lagi musim gugur, anginnya kenceng banget.
Hati-hati, ini licin. Lihat nih, pandainya. Aca, Aca, sini. Lihat ada istana. Kok pelan banget jalannya?
Dia lagi ngelamun, Beb.
Lagi ngelamun.
Iya. Nah, ini nggak ngelamun nih.
Pelan banget jalan. Nih, gini caranya. Caranya gini. Mau duduk apa enggak? Mau, oke. Oke, anak-anak lagi pada istirahat di kamar karena kegiatan hari ini ternyata lebih cepat daripada perkiraan kita ya, karena Glenelg tuh super berangin.
Iya.
Kita datang ke sana, cuman main bentar.
Gimana?
Oke, nah ini kita lagi ngedit videonya nih. Jadi di hari kita lagi syuting ini, kita seharian memang kita rekam kegiatannya. Nah, setelah dari pantai Glenelg ini, kita balik lagi ke kota Adelaide, terus jalan-jalan di North Terrace. Nah, di Adelaide, tiap bagian kota memang dipisah-pisahkan. Kalau ini namanya North Terrace, di mana bangunan-bangunan edukasi dan budaya dijadikan satu strip. Di sepanjang strip ini ada University of Adelaide, museum, perpustakaan, dan jalan dikit lagi baru ketemu stadion nonton football.
Aku mau coklat donat. Donat. Gila, itu gede banget sih itu donat ya.
Nah, dari railway station ini, kita berangkat ke seberangnya Adelaide Oval, yaitu football stadionnya.
Tertata banget ya kota ini ya. Asli deh. The Palais de Dance. The Dance. Jadi dia bikin kayak tempat buat dansa, Beb. Tapi di pinggir danau, di pinggir sungai. Mana udah nggak ada ya.
Bang, gue bingung nih editannya mau kemana. Soalnya footage-nya nggak jelas.
Iya juga sih. Ini si Fadil pas di Australia gimana sih ngambilnya? Gimana sih, Dil? Gue inget, Pep. Abis dari sini kita mau nonton stand up comedy. Waktu malam tuh. Footage-nya ada nggak kalau itu?
Oh, kalau itu ada bang.
Coba.
Jadi kita habis makan di kamar hotel, habis mesenin makanan juga buat anak-anak gue. Anissa lagi nyuapin makan buat anak-anak, terus dia agak ngerasa pusing. Jadi dia memutuskan untuk tidak ikut nonton stand up malam ini. Nah, ini gue mau jalan ke tempat nonton stand up comedy di sini. Tempatnya ada di Rhino Room. Katanya itu tempat yang memang rutin dijadikan buat nonton stand up atau performance yang kayak gitu-gitu. Ya kita lihat aja lah kultur stand up-nya di Adelaide tuh kayak gimana. Dan ini weekend, zaman-zaman gue kuliah di sini gue paling males dan sangat menghindari keluar kalau lagi weekend. Karena rame dan kadang-kadang ada orang mabok juga di jalan nih. Apa nggak capek tuh orang-orangnya? Ya oke lah, kita lihatlah weekend di Adelaide seperti apa. Let's go. Jadi yang mau kita tonton ini, ada stand up comedian namanya Lori Bell. Dia terkenal di Australia, di selatan ini. Lalu hari ini dia ngasih showcase gitu loh, ngumpulin teman-teman stand up comediannya dia untuk perform, untuk ngasih lihat gitu. Gue nggak tahu siapa yang bakal tampil dan kayak gimana, tapi kita coba aja. Gue juga nggak pernah ngerti scene stand up comedy di sini. Ih, deg-degan bakal kayak apa ya? Tapi tempatnya itu kalau gue ngeliat dari fotonya ya, emang tempat kecil gitu. Oke, kita akan cari jalan masuk, kita stop dulu videonya karena pasti juga nggak boleh nge-video video di dalam. Ntar kita ceritain pengalaman nontonnya seperti apa. Nah, hari ini kita mau nonton ini nih. Fridays jam 7, stand up comedy showcasing Australia's best comedian. Ternyata pas kita ke sana nggak ada tanda-tanda kehidupan kan. Terus yang ada tulisan si Lori Bell, which is orang yang pengen gua tonton itu, showcasing teman-teman komediannya itu dihapus sama yang punya. Gue bingung kan, ini jadinya jadi nggak show-nya. Terus ternyata yang pemiliknya masih sama atau kenal sama pemiliknya, datang bule nyamperin gue terus bilang bahwa itu show-nya cancelled, sorry banget. Dia bilang lu udah jauh-jauh datang tapi show-nya di cancel nih, maaf banget ya. Lo bisa email yang punya IO-nya, nanti dia akan refund, dia akan iniin gitu. Oh ya nggak apa-apa. Terus gue bingung kan, kenapa nggak dikasih tahu ya kalau show-nya di cancel gitu. Kita udah jauh-jauh sini. Terus gue cek emailnya, ternyata dia memang udah email gue, "Hai Raditya, apologies nih." Dan ini 2 hari yang lalu, gue nggak baca. Ada di email pribadi gue soalnya. Sayang, udah selesai show-nya. Seru banget ya. Yang paling menarik adalah soal tadi aku naik panggung ngomongin kamu di depan bule-bule. Iya, cepet nggak? Nggak apa-apa, pengen aja. Show-nya di cancel. Udah datang ke sana, show-nya di cancel. Tak ada, tapi aku nggak baca. Ada di email.
Siapa yang hancur? Ini bukan slime.
Itu apa?
Ini masker mata mama. Ini bukan slime, Alea. Ini masker.
Kakak hancurin. Kakak pikir apa, sayang?
Ini bentuknya bintang sih, tapi bukan mainan, ini masker mata.
Jangan dihancurin ya, Kak ya. Nggak apa-apa, kan kakak nggak tahu. It's okay. Yuk, makan yuk, sayang. Kita makan makanan legendaris Adelaide punya. Yang hanya Warlock yang tahu.
Yeah, I would like to have the AB please. For large.
Large portion. Ya. Jadi kita mau makan di sini itu namanya AB. AB itu katanya makanan khas Adelaide. Ada banyak legenda dan sejarah kenapa namanya AB. Ada yang bilang absolute beauty, dibilang tuh cantik banget padahal bentuknya jelek. Jadi kayak ironik, kayak ngejokes gitu loh. Ini bentuknya jelek banget tapi dibilangnya absolute beauty AB. Ada yang bilang ya macam-macam lah singkatan AB yang beda-beda gitu kan. Nah, apakah AB ini itu kayak semacam daging apa isian apa sih itu doner kebab gitu, isian kebab dibuka sama dia terus dikasih saus yang nggak jelas yang banyak gitu. Bentuknya jelek banget tapi rasanya enak menurut gua. Kan AB ini cukup populer nih di Adelaide, banyak yang ini kan, banyak yang makan dan banyak yang tahu. Ini adalah tempat pertama AB itu dipopulerkan, makanya tulisannya adalah home of the AB gitu. Nah, gosipnya di internet itu banyak yang bilang bahwa sekarang rasanya dari tahun lalu tuh udah mulai nggak enak karena katanya ya kalau review-review di Google itu anaknya mulai ngambil ahli, bapaknya udah pensiun lah apa segala macam gitu. Tapi gue ngeliat ada bapak-bapak tua kayaknya masih deh bapaknya tuh. Tapi ya kita akan coba AB ini kayak gimana. Ekspektasi kamu kayak apa bentuknya?
Di foto sih bagus-bagus aja, normal-normal aja ya.
Nggak ada di foto.
Jadi aku nggak ada ekspektasi.
Nggak ada di foto.
Kayak ya baik-baik aja deh kayaknya. Kayaknya nggak kayak dulu deh.
Kayak dulu tuh apa?
Ya kayak yang kamu bilang yang
Jelek. Kita lihat ya. Karena orang pada bilang bentuknya jelek tapi dikasih namanya absolute beauty. Jadi kayak lucu-lucuan gitu. Oke, ini legend juga nih. Ini kopi. Dulu pas gue kuliah, gue suka minum. Beli di minimarket gitu. Cara bikinnya.
oh gitu beb, aku baru tahu. Aku suka nggak pernah tahu lo itu cara minumnya gimana.
Coba, kamu juga. Kamu dulu. Sama Fadil tapi. Kamu coba. Enak kan, jujur.
Enak banget.
Gila kan. Cheers, thank you. Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, for you too. Is it okay? Okay, cheers. Thank you.
Dulu makannya gini juga nih, rame-rame sama teman-teman.
Tapi enak tau. Jadinya kayak semangat itu loh. Ini bisa buat berapa orang ya? Kayaknya lebih dari
Kalau
kita
di
nggak?
atasnya itu untuk berempat.
Empat orang meninggal ya?
4 bule kali ya.
4 bulan.
4 bule itu kan tulisannya 3. Oke, hari ini berakhir sudah. Tadi seru banget. Pagi-pagi kita ke Glenelg ngelihat pantai. Abis itu kita jalan-jalan
Oval.
ke Adelaide Oval dan kawan-kawannya. Itu festival ground sih sebenarnya. Pengen nonton stand up comedy tapi ternyata dibatalin dan gue nggak lihat emailnya. Yang lucunya adalah kan ada bule nyamperin aku bilang, lo mau denger musik aja nggak? Di sini ada musik gitu kan. Soalnya nih show yang di sini cancel. Ternyata dia artisnya, musisi yang mau main di situ, dan aku nggak enak banget karena aku bilang nggak, kita maunya nonton komedi, nggak mau nonton musik gitu kan. Jadi kayak agak nggak enak gitu. Dan dia ternyata bagus banget lagunya. Jadi ini gue kasih lihat websitenya aja di sini supaya kalian bisa lihat juga orangnya. Jadi kayak dia kayak busker gitu, main di jalan dan sekarang lagi tour keliling Australia.
Greetings, I'm Jae Kim, the executive producer of Black Desert. Adventurers, thank you so much for your patience. We are finally ready to unveil the Land of the Morning Light. We would like to thank our global adventurers who have been waiting a long time for this, although we were eager to show you sooner. We decided to focus more on localization for good quality. We hope you enjoyed the Land of the Morning Light, since many adventurers were looking forward to this expansion. We have given our best effort, knowing how much it meant to our players. Now let us introduce the Land of the Morning Light, a new challenge and adventure in the world of Black Desert. Trying something new is always exciting and somewhat daunting. However, rather than focusing on the meaning of success or failure, we believe that the significance lies in the challenge and the attempt itself, as it paves the way for progress. In the Land of the Morning Light, we have taken on several new challenges. The first challenge is to move away from the Tolkienish fantasy backgrounds and introduce a concept inspired by Korea's Joseon era, which may feel unfamiliar to our global adventurers, but will offer a fresh visual experience even for Korean adventurers in their 20s who haven't seen it before. However, on the contrary, I have thought about it differently. If it feels new to Korean adventurers, then it could truly be a world of fantasy, unlike anything overseas adventurers have never seen. I wanted adventurers to experience the Korean medieval era, its architecture, clothing, mythology, and joys and sorrows of life that would be unfamiliar but still quite relatable. At first, we were also concerned that the unfamiliar images may be too disorienting, but after developing and experiencing it firsthand, we realized that we have made the right decision. We made every effort to capture the beauty of both the Joseon era and of Black Desert. The second challenge was a bold departure from the existing playstyle. We believe that Black Desert has, through time and numerous updates, established a solid basic system of gameplay. And of course, there will always be fine-tuning to be done. Many players have enjoyed the action style and command-based skills of Black Desert, and defeating monsters based on those elements added to the enjoyment of the gameplay. However, no matter how good something is, if you keep encountering it, you start to become too accustomed to that consistent style of gameplay. We needed a change and made various attempts. We tried to create a desert of harsh environmental extremes, an ocean with seemingly no end, Kama Sylvia where you can feel the foundation of growth and a fantasy atmosphere, Dregan with its highlands and dragon legends, Hadum with its twist on standard gameplay, and the cutscenes and storytelling of the Mountain of Eternal Winter. We realized that, while we should borrow from each of their good aspects, there is a need to fill in the gaps and make even greater changes. We felt that new adventures in a new region should not be the same as existing regions. Therefore, in the Land of the Morning Light, we removed the repetitive mob grinding gameplay. Even from the perspective of the Black Desert development team, it was a daunting challenge. However, we rose to the challenge. In the Land of the Morning Light, the basic gameplay revolves around defeating each boss. The ability for players to set the difficulty of a boss was the very definition of that challenge. The third challenge was to transition from our previous linear quest progression to an omnibus-style one. Adventurers will experience gameplay in the order they choose, based on the storylines they select in Darbal Village. This allows them to focus on each individual story. Each story, including the Balinus reboot and the Mountain of Eternal Winter that were already introduced, as well as improved cutscenes and storytelling in Abyss the Magnus, will convey various emotions to the adventurers. You will be able to enjoy each story with a sense of immersion similar to reading a fairy tale or novel. Please look forward to what new stories await in the Land of the Morning Light. With its new adventures, the Land of the Morning Light is a new challenge in Black Desert. New attempts can be both exciting and daunting. Could have walked the proven path by simply adding new monster zones and bosses. However, we wanted to offer adventurers a slightly different experience here in the Land of the Morning Light. While Black Desert provides a reliable play pattern, we also want players to feel like they can embark on a new adventure at any time. We look forward to the stories you create for yourselves in the new region, the Land of the Morning Light, opening June 14th.
About 100 years ago, a German missionary depicted their impression of Korea's capital. We wondered how we could effectively convey this impression to our adventurers through the game and kept this in mind as we developed the background for the Morning Light. To create a captivating impression of the Land of the Morning Light, the territory beyond Magoria, we drew inspiration from the stunning natural beauty of Gogum Island in Jeollanam, Gyeong County. Then, we drew inspiration from the lush and towering bamboo forest of Damyang, which helped bring to life the tranquility and freshness of Shinride Forest, awash in greens and blues, Dale Pier reflecting the warmth of the new year with its vibrant Rose Bay paths, Bombawi Valley showcases the majestic silhouette of Taebaek Mountain and the diverse colors of the changing seasons. And Byeokgae Island displays its serene but restrained beauty like a delicate drop of ink on a white Hanji canvas. By carefully incorporating these vibrant colors and natural elements of Korea, we meticulously crafted the terrain of the Land of the Morning Light. We believe that adventurers exploring this new continent will experience both a sense of familiarity and foreignness as if wandering through a beautiful yet undiscovered corner of our country. We also created new terrain that tie in with unique characters from Korean folklore such as Humbu, Norbu, Gumyo, and the Dokkaebi. We were fortunate to have received assistance from the Cultural Heritage Administration when designing the pottery and ceramics as well. We also created spaces within the Land of the Morning Light where adventurers could vividly experience the traditional Korean folktales during their travels. We designed these various folktale-inspired environments to reflect the motives and atmosphere unique to our culture. We integrated motifs such as imprisonment and corporal punishment to create an atmosphere reminiscent of visiting the Korean Minsok village. We've incorporated several picturesque and serene spots throughout Black Desert that are perfect for avid adventurers looking to capture memorable moments. Explore the captivating landscapes of Goen Plateau and Bombawi, the Royal Azalea Park, and witness the blossoming Mugunghwa to truly immerse yourself in Korea's traditional beauty. We hope these elements will transport you to the nostalgic ambience of rural Korea, and that you'll revel in the constant adventure, beauty, and wonder that awaits at every corner.
Bosses in the Morning Light were created using various references to Korean folklore and legend, such as the spinster ghost Songakshi, the tale of Princess Bari, from Jeju Island's Jinguktae folklore, and the legends of the Golden Pig. We also depicted the Korean Dokkaebi in various forms. They are said to have a human-like appearance and have the ability to inhabit everyday objects, which we brought to life by designing them as sieves or potlids. In addition, some elements which already existed in Black Desert were transformed into their Korean counterparts. The Korean versions of the Papuan otters are from the folktale The Hare's Liver, and the Mudang Wraith was created by imagining Hexe Marie as a mythical Korean creature. Following The Hare's Liver, the characters were originally intended to be designed as tortoises, but due to their potentially intimidating appearance, we depicted them as turtles instead. To draw more representation from Korean culture, the boss Sangun was modeled after the traditional Korean tiger from Korean folktales rather than a typical tiger. Additionally, the illustrations, which play a supporting role in various stories, were designed to look like traditional ink paintings reminiscent of traditional Korean fairy tale books. As we searched for ways to make the commoners' clothes more interesting, we found ourselves inspired by the vibrant colors and intricate patterns of traditional Korean embroidery. By incorporating such elements into the design of their clothing, we were able to create a visually stunning and culturally authentic representation of their attire.
We wanted new NPC animations in the Morning Light to be natural and realistically depict the lifestyle of the Joseon era. You'll find old men smoking pipes, laborers weaving reeds, and drunks stumbling around, to children asking neighbors for salt or playing games like Jegi and Tuhol. We included every possible detail to immerse players in a truly authentic experience that captures the essence of the past. Bosses such as Gumiho, the Dokkaebi King, and Sangun are legends that were designed to show their movements and behavior come to life. We gave careful thought on how to portray the Mudang Wraith. And by designing her to resemble someone who's received a divine revelation and cast spells with that power, we were able to create a character unlike any other.
You all probably encountered Yeonhwa in the pre-quest updated last week. As your companion who experienced life and death with you in the Magnus returns to her hometown, I believe your hearts must have been touched by the scene where she invites you. Yeonhwa longed to return to her hometown so badly. The distant and mysterious land of the morning light will welcome our adventurers with refreshing sunlight on June 14th. Global adventurers, you must have grown up listening to interesting tales of the past from your grandparents. Korea also has many such fascinating stories. Since these stories are not yet well known in other countries, they may be somewhat unfamiliar to you, but that just means these fresh and exciting stories are bound to surprise you. These stories have been passed down orally for generations because they're such gripping tales. We have chosen the most relatable themes, such as the love of parents or long-hidden love, and we've adapted them so global adventurers can easily understand them. With over 80 story cutscenes, more than 40 vignettes, and over 6,000 fully dubbed lines, we know you'll be fully immersed. On June 14th, you will receive an invitation from Yeonhwa and arrive at Nampo Harbor in the land of the morning light. Yeonhwa is busy and leaves you in the care of Dorsue, who will accompany you on this adventure in the new land. From day one with Dorsue, you will be dragged into mysterious incidents. You will be unjustly accused and even imprisoned. Through your adventure, you must uncover the truth of these events and find out who the culprit is. Oh, and the fate of certain bosses in the land of the morning light may vary depending on your choices. Listen and read the story carefully, and choose the path your heart tells you to follow. Then, your own collection of tales will be written as you go along.
The boss battle scenes in both the Mountain of Eternal Winter and the Balanos reboot began with a dark screen that brightened to reveal the boss being summoned before the start of the battle. Some adventurers felt this transition was a bit abrupt and disconnected. We put a lot of thought into how we could make these boss battles a more seamless experience, and we've implemented a new system where we've allowed boss battles to begin in the middle of cutscenes to avoid disrupting the flow of the story. We also developed many new mechanics for the bosses which appear in cutscenes and paid attention to details like camera focus and character expressions that were previously lacking.
This time we have tried a new combat style in the land of the morning light. There are no typical monster zones, but instead the region consists solely of boss encounters. It's called the Black Desert Boss Blitz. In the land of the morning light, instead of monster zones, there will be 8 bosses, each with their own story and traits. The 8 bosses include the enchanting fox spirit Gumiho, the bamboo legion from Korean folklore, the Changi, evil spirits of those who died from a tiger attack, the powerful Mudang wraith, the Songgakshi, also known as the spinster ghost, the mischievous golden pig king, the king of Dokkebi Duokshini, and the tiger king Sangun, who is terrorizing the land of the morning light. Each of these bosses has their own story and distinct characteristics. As adventurers, you can gradually conquer these challenges by learning their traits and patterns. Today, I would like to focus on one particular boss, the Golden Pig King. With a massive sword befitting his size, he exhibits intimidating attacks that resembles an executioner. He has an audacious personality, so he shouts how cowardly it is for you to keep running away. Another boss that stands out is the Songgakshi, one of the most famous ghosts in Korea. The Songgakshi is the spirit of an unmarried woman that died in an unexpected accident. With long hair covering her face and wearing a white funeral robe, the Songgakshi is synonymous with horror. The story of how she became a spirit is a tragic one. Each boss is unique in terms of their appearance, personality, and combat style. I hope all adventurers enjoy the diverse experiences they provide. By playing through the main quest and learning the background stories, you can immerse yourself more in the battles with these bosses. Therefore, I recommend enjoying the main quest before facing them. That's not everything. Since all these bosses are released in Korea, those who've been keeping up with the game might feel a bit less excited about the content for its global release. That's why we added one more boss specifically for the global update, the monster Imugi. Imugi will be released for the first time to all our global adventurers. I hope you'll enjoy this fresh and new experience.
The difficulty of boss battles are divided into 10 levels, ranging from Calamity Level 1, the lowest, to Calamity Level 10, the highest. Initially, you'll be able to conquer the lower levels without much difficulty, but as you progress, new attack patterns will emerge, creating more intense challenges. Therefore, if you are not familiar with boss battles or find them too difficult, it's okay to start from a lower level and gradually work your way up. Each of the bosses in the Land of the Morning Light possesses one of 3 attributes: Sun, Moon, or Earth. These attributes affect the boss's AP and DP. Therefore, it will be difficult for you to defeat the bosses effectively as soon as the Land of the Morning Light is released. During your adventure in the Land of the Morning Light, you will obtain a special item called the Light Orb in limited quantities. Light orbs are like points that allow you to enhance the Sun, Moon, or Earth attributes. For example, by investing 3 light orbs into the Earth attribute, Earth AP and DP will increase. This will allow you to deal more damage to the bosses and reduce the damage received. Additionally, all the bosses in this update have their own weaknesses, represented by the Sun, Moon, and Earth attributes. If you invest heavily in the Earth attribute, you'll have a huge advantage against bosses like Sangun or Kumiho, who are weak against Earth. The number of light orbs you can obtain is limited. As adventurers, you can strategically invest your points, designate the boss difficulty, and make your own builds.
90% of the damage dealt to the bosses in the Land of the Morning Light is from your attribute AP, and 10% from your character's AP. The DP ratio is also set the same way. With these ratios, it enables adventurers just starting out to face these bosses after they play through the Land of the Morning Light. We believe that we need to continue thinking about accessibility for more people with new content, like the Arena of Solera. And as a result of this consideration, we've decided to implement attribute AP and DP. We may make changes to it over time, but our goal is to make it accessible, so we'd like to ask our veteran adventurers for their understanding.
Let's move on to new loot and items. I'm certain that many of you are brimming with anticipation, but first, I'd like to reveal the subjugation rankings that is part of this update. The subjugation ranking shows how fast you cleared each boss by difficulty level, but unlike the existing ranking system, this one will be applied to each class individually rather than collectively. The difficulties of each boss won't be fully available at first, but they'll gradually unlock as each class successfully subjugate the previous difficulty. For example, if you are playing warrior, an adventurer must initially clear a specific difficulty as a warrior in order to unlock the next difficulty level for all other warriors. As each class in Black Desert possesses their own set of unique abilities and combat style, strategizing a plan may be more or less challenging, depending on the characteristics of the boss and that particular class. In the end, we adopted this approach to give skilled adventurers who have extensively studied and gained experience with a particular class the opportunity to achieve greater glory. We hope that this opens up more challenging opportunities for adventurers. Alright, let's move on to loot and new items that can be obtained from these bosses. Allow me to introduce the new accessory, Belt of Tepik, which comes with a special option that activates new skills immediately upon equipping it. The belt grants the Blessing of Tepik skill, and activates a protective buff for you and your nearby allies. But it's important to note that it has a relatively long cooldown, and as you defeat these bosses, there is a small yet certain probability that you'll obtain special loot called the Jewel of Illusion. You can also bring the jewel back to the main continent, where it can be crafted into accessories. Next up is the Deboreka earring that many have been eagerly anticipating. The Deboreka earring not only possesses its own inherent attributes, but also plays a role in activating the Deboreka 3 set effect, so many adventurers would be excited to hear this news. Furthermore, new crystals will be added. Adventurers can unlock 2 additional crystal slots as they venture through the Land of the Morning Light. You will be able to equip existing crystals or the new Morning Light crystals in these slots. Various crystals with diverse effects will be added, including the previously introduced Pongwang's Tear. Additionally, new materials for upgrading the combined magic crystals will be introduced, allowing for even more versatile builds.
Last but not least, we have the new, highly anticipated gear, Dan's Gloves. The gloves comes in two versions, damage reduction and evasion. You'll initially craft one version of the gloves, then have the option to exchange them for the other. We put a lot of thought into their crafting method, as there are no new monster zones. We explored different ways of crafting to make it engaging and avoid repetitiveness. Therefore, we made the gloves a loot drop for defeating the bosses in the Land of the Morning Light. However, the chance of obtaining them as loot is very low. Additionally, a new material called Flame of Hongik, similar to the Flame of Despair and Flame of Frost, is required to craft the gloves. The materials for Flame of Hongik can be obtained through defeating bosses, as well as by collecting crystallized despair in the Elvia Calphion. Dan's gloves were crafted with a motif of the gloves worn by King Taejo of Joseon, Yi Seonggae, one of the greatest archers in the history of Korea. Therefore, their appearance reflects its significance. Also, mark your calendars for the upcoming Kaphras extraction event, which will start at the launch of the Land of the Morning Light.
Now let's shift our focus to residences. In the Land of the Morning Light, there aren't any residences like the ones you're used to. Instead, there are two manors which closely resemble the blue-maned Lion's Manor. One is very spacious with room for lots of decorations, while the other has a more compact design. This is the Simhyangjae, a unique residential area in the Land of the Morning Light, based on the traditional Korean hanok tile-roofed kiwa house. The name Simhyangjae means the home in one's heart, and it indeed brings peace to one's heart and mind. You'll be enchanted by the courtyard's fragrant flowers in spring, while the sound of raindrops falling on the eaves will soothe the summer's heat. In autumn, you can immerse yourself in the tranquil sunset with a good book. Finally, during winter, snuggle up in the guest house with your beloved pets as you watch the snow fall outside. Don't you feel at peace just imagining it? You can also explore the interior of the Simhyangjae at the end of the main questline in Land of the Morning Light. New and unique furniture will be added, designed especially for the Land of the Morning Light. These furniture pieces were designed to complement the unique manners of the region, but they're also stunning enough to enhance any other existing space. They will be exquisite additions to your blue-maned manor in Serendia. You'll also be able to construct a new ship, the Panoksan. The Panoksan may appear to be primarily used for combat, as evident from its exterior design, but its true charm lies in the flexibility of the ship's performance, as it is able to hold quite a large crew. In other words, while the overall performance of the ship may be lower than that of the existing carrack, it can be customized and prepared for different purposes by adjusting the number of crew members or assigning certain equipment. The Panoksan can be constructed using crafting materials from the Land of the Morning Light and sea coins. To build the Panoksan, you will need sea coins, which means construction will be easier for those who already possess a carrack. However, it's important to note that the ship's construction period is intentionally designed to require consistent effort and dedication in order to complete the process.
Finally, let's talk about the changes to life skills. In the Land of the Morning Light, you can embark on adventures which are centered around life skills. During this process, you can acquire the Green Thumb knowledge, and once you learn this knowledge, you'll obtain a new skill called Green Artisan. This gives you the chance to activate a new minigame when you gather after learning this skill. The minigames activate through various gathering activities such as lumbering, fluid gathering, hoeing, butchering, mining, and tanning, and it was designed with simple controls. You'll use more energy to clear the minigame, but you can get a lot of gathering materials, which overall allows you to significantly reduce the time required compared to traditional gathering methods. Additionally, there's an extremely rare item that can only be obtained in these minigames, introducing the Millennial Wild Ginseng. In the Morning Light, this herb is highly valued, surpassing any treasures of gold or silver. When used, it provides a unique buff to your character that lasts for approximately 3 months. You can gather and use it yourself, or trade it on the central market at a high price. You could see it as a jackpot drop for the gathering content.
New herbal medicine and food items have been added as well. You'll be able to use them separately from cron meals, elixirs, and perfumes. As they have powerful effects, they are designed only to be used at crucial moments. For example, although they have a cooldown of 22 hours, there's food which restores your HP by 5,000 and an herbal medicine that restores energy by 500 and then gives 30 energy recovery for an hour. Oh, and how can we forget about kukbap? We've added a perfect pairing for kukbap. It's a small change, but exotic herbal wine, which will now be called makgeolli, will be available as well. Next, let's talk about life crystals. With a wider variety of crystal types available, you can now use crystal presets for various setups. These life crystals can be obtained through quests or crafted using different materials. Additionally, you can acquire a little tokebi worker in the Land of the Morning Light. This tokebi can work at regular production nodes and also be sent to the special exclusive crafting house to create unique items. You'll also encounter thrilling surprises with the swing of the magical gebi bat, so we hope everyone gives it a try.
Lastly, we will be discussing news about Marnie, whose reach has already extended to the Land of the Morning Light. Apparently, he's come up with another invention called Marnie's Sniper Rifle. As expected from Marnie, it's not only well crafted but also exquisite in appearance. With the addition of Marnie's Sniper Rifle, we made updates to sniper rifle hunting as well. The most notable addition is targetable monster parts. The amount of damage dealt will vary depending on the part's hit, and the overall result will determine the tier of the reward. Headshots will guarantee the highest possible damage, though rewards will vary by the type of monster hunted. Also, when you use Marnie's Sniper Rifle, a UI will display which part of the monster your shot landed on. We hope that this new sniper rifle is exciting news for those who have been enjoying sniper rifle hunting. Hello, I am Ryu Hyman, the music director of the audio department. The composers of Pearl Bliss, responsible for the fantastic Everfrost soundtrack, returned for this project, each representing their unique style of traditional Korean music. I too have composed a piece of music in the traditional style. The goal of this music project was to showcase how fascinating traditional Korean music can be as a genre. In my case, I focused on the rhythm of traditional Korean music, as well as its instruments, samunori, and shamanic music. The rhythms were incredibly profound, and I became immersed in the world of this music, and lost track of time working on this project. While producing the music for the Morning Light, I used an experimental piece inspired by samunori rhythm for the battle between Musa and Megu. I had not expected adventurers to enjoy it so much, and it gave me the courage to attempt more diverse and beautiful traditional rhythms for this expansion. To enhance the intensity of combat, I studied the characteristics of each boss and composed traditional Korean music that fit well with them. For the boss Mudang Wraith, I rearranged the rhythm of Gyeonggi-do Dangut, which was music used in shamanic rituals during the Joseon dynasty. I also created a motif from the dynamic and complex rhythm of two of the most prominent rhythms in samunori music. Including these battle music pieces, the Morning Light's audio theme consists of 5 different genres: meditation music to soothe the mind, emotional music to accompany the story, village music to suit the ambience when strolling around, and horror music for eerie situations and environments. We plan to showcase a variety of traditional Korean music pieces in the future, starting with the Morning Light. We hope you enjoy listening to them.
Lastly, we'd like to point out the amount of effort poured into localizing the Land of the Morning Light. As this content is rooted in Korean culture, it is bound to feel unfamiliar for our global adventurers. With this in mind, we endeavor to accurately convey the subtle connotations and contexts of these innately Korean stories. The voice actors paid extra careful attention to each and every word to capture their essence. Also, certain parts were not translated to maintain the impression of entering a foreign country. For example, signs on buildings and the marketplace bulletins are written in Hangul, the Korean alphabet. We believe this will create the immersive experience of stepping foot into a new world. This concludes our intro to the Land of the Morning Light. I remember when we first began this project. It was both exciting and nerve-wracking, and to think that we are now launching this globally after our initial launch in Korea is a euphoric feeling. I don't think I've ever been this nervous when introducing new content. When preparing the image representative of the Land of the Morning Light, we captured the back of a warrior, wearing medieval armor as he steps onto its streets. We believe this image conveyed the sense of a stranger in unfamiliar land, arousing curiosity and a sense of adventure. We believe that the image will accurately reflect the sentiment of our adventurers right now. We hope you enjoy your adventures in the Land of the Morning Light.
We have news on Wusa's awakening, which I'm sure many of our adventurers are all waiting for. After witnessing the love and support for Wusa and Megu, we wanted to create something even better. We have kept some of their original animations intact, but we have also made some significant changes. As such, their update schedule was inevitably pushed back. While developing Awakening Wusa, we put a lot of thought into how to bring a uniqueness to the character. We then came across a Suchon Flower Garden, one of the folk tales in Korea, and decided it would be a fitting motif. This motif was manifested and implemented into Awakening Wusa. The Suchon Flower Garden is one of the places in the afterlife where the souls of the dead gather. At first, we worried that this would be difficult to convey. We incorporated the unnamed flowers and spirits of Netherworld, along with the moon of the night sky that Wusa came to represent the outer world. Luckily, the result was more impressive than we'd initially imagined. Like this, Awakening Wusa gained a new sense of individuality. We will continue our introduction with a video we prepared of Awakening Wusa.
Young, the more you try to erase your bloodlines, the clearer they become. And the more you try to forget them, the greater your longing grows.
Though you walk down different paths, your fate, preordained by the heavens, will lead you both to one enlightenment.
Are you ready to face each other?
Apa sih? Oh, usaha ini langsung gerakan. Suara gini amat.
For those seeing our twin sisters for the first time, let me give you a brief explanation. These sisters are fundamentally rivals to each other. One is affiliated with the Wudo school, and the other, the Jado school. They are like the Jedi and Sith in Star Wars, with different martial arts training methods and conflicting ideologies that set them at odds. You can see the younger sister, Usa of the Wudo school, as the Jedi, and the older sister, Megu of the Jado school, as the Sith. Last December, we uploaded The Tale of Two Twins to our official Black Desert YouTube. Listening to this audiobook will give you much greater insight into their relationship. As Wusa progresses through her awakening quest, she has a profound realization and encounters a mighty spirit. As a result, she can draw power from the Suchon Flower Garden, a realm of the afterlife in Korean mythology. The bright moon gracefully rising above a pristine puddle, the flowers that bloom in all directions, the spirits that emerge from the books she clasps in her left hand, and the calligraphy she writes with the brush in her right hand. All of these represent the inner nature of Wusa. Wusa has always emphasized the power of humanity. diligently honing her inner self and accumulating knowledge. Due to these principles, she used to criticize her sister Megu for drawing power from external sources such as spirits. Play through Wusa's awakening quest to discover firsthand what kind of spiritual being Wusa encountered that ultimately led her to acknowledge and accept divine power.
The weapon's appearance will not be a charm, but rather will look much like a book. We believe that if we weave the charms together into the form of a book, the imagery would amplify Wusa's elegant and serene demeanor. For her outfit, our aim was to give Wusa, embodying the essence of the Seocheon flower garden, the allure of an aristocratic figure. We drew inspiration from the attire worn by officials during ancestral rites in the Joseon dynasty, with the formal attire known as wonsam also worn by high-ranking officials to further enhance our identity as a representative of the Wudo school and a princess. The shoulder piece symbolizes flowers blooming at Gwangcheon Lake, while the lantern adorning her waist conveys the feeling of guiding spirits.
The combat style for Awakening Wusa is a hybrid with a focus on mid-range combat. One of the most distinctive features is the ability for Wusa to wield flowers. These flowers serve as summons that bloom and perform various roles to assist Wusa when she utilizes her skills. Allow me to introduce one of Awakening Wusa's main skills, called Moonlit Blast. It is a skill where the flowers summoned around Wusa explode, causing AoE damage. Upon light water effect spreads across the ground. This symbolizes the boundary between the mortal realm and the afterlife. Moreover, the water is illuminated by the moon, evoking an image of the night sky. This displays how our worlds are intertwined by reflecting the night sky in the afterlife above the Seocheon flower garden. Next, we have a skill that embodies Awakening Wusa's combat style called Floral Burst. Floral Burst creates small seeds in front of Wusa that blossom into flowers after a short duration, dealing significant damage in the area. Next is the skill called Seocheon Field. When used, small flowers bloom at the targeted location. These flowers work like mines. When someone approaches them, they explode to inflict big damage. Between the timed skill and the mines, you can get creative and dominate the battlefield. Planting flowers along the path you anticipate your enemies to follow can create openings for you. You can also confuse your opponents by inflicting damage at unexpected timings while performing regular attacks. The next main skill is Mark of the Moon. This skill is presented with the concept of a flower of the afterlife. When using this skill, it inflicts damage to enemies in front and leaves a mark on a target. Summoned flowers then pursue the marked target to claim its soul, and explode after a certain period to inflict damage. In PvE, it can be utilized as the main damage skill, while in PvP, it can be used to track enemies and deal damage. Also, the Mark of the Moon effect is meant to appear like a record of the ones destined for the underworld. To visually represent this concept, we incorporated hunger into the skill effects. Despite being a formidable skill, we strive to make it elegant with hunger woven into Wusa's unique and graceful movements. I believe explanation alone may not be enough, so we prepared a combat video. Let's take a look.
Jelek banget anjing, awakan yang Wusa gue liat, geli gue liat skillnya jelek banget animasinya.
This is the older sister Megan. As a child, she was part of the Wudo school along with her younger sister, and she used to wield a fan. However, she didn't have any particular talent for the Wudo school's training methods. Due to her struggles, she eventually joined the rival school, known as the Charter School. It was here where her talents began to bloom. As she embarks on her awakening quest, she gains profound insight into herself and comes to wield the fan once again. As for whom she met and what stories unfolded, you will discover them firsthand by experiencing the awakening quest yourself.
Her awakening weapon is in the final stages of development, so we haven't prepared a full combat video yet. Instead, let me briefly explain the combat style of Awakening Meiko. Unlike Sasuke, she wields two fans and focuses more on melee combat, rather than manipulating wind and storm clouds. She is capable of piercing through enemies and creating powerful fiery attacks with the power of the Fox Spirit. Furthermore, by spreading both fans to unleash a burst of flame, she can inflict debuffs in a wide area of effect. While each movement skill may not cover a great distance, she has a variety of them that help her chase down enemies at remarkable speed.
This is the end of our updates on Awakening Wusa and Megu. The development of Awakening Megu is in its final stages. We are working hard to present to our adventurers a new and enjoyable gameplay. The Awakening Wusa update is scheduled to be released across all regions on May 15th. As for the Awakening Megu, she's planned to be released in June.
This is all we have prepared for today. From the bottom of our hearts, we thank you all for continuing to enjoy our game. We will continue in striving to bring to you the best adventures possible, and in
Warning, this video may cause you to never want to eat sugar ever again. So you might want to pause this video and get your last dose before I reveal some very interesting information. And of course, the more aware you are of what sugar does, the less you're going to consume it. I watch people all the time around me just consuming massive amounts of sugar, and I'm like, oh my gosh, how could you possibly do that? Well, it has to do with awareness. They just don't know the effects. Now, we probably all know the effects with weight gain and dental decay and a fatty liver and high cholesterol and acne and high blood pressure, increased candida infections and lowered immune system, etc., etc. But there's some other things that I want to share with you deep inside your body that you need to know about. And it all relates to most diseases are metabolic diseases. What does that mean, metabolic diseases? It has to do with your metabolism. And when we're talking about metabolism, we're specifically talking about this one structure in our cells called the mitochondria. Mitochondrial dysfunction is responsible for the majority of non-infectious diseases. Dysfunctional mitochondria are what's behind cardiovascular disease, cancer. In fact, cancer, you have normal cells that turn into cancer cells because of damaged mitochondria. It's impossible to get cancer unless you have damage to the mitochondria. Alzheimer's, which is type 3 diabetes, kidney and liver disease. All of these general metabolic diseases, if you look closely at what's happening as a common thread, deep inside the cell, we have dysfunctional mitochondria. There are a lot of things that destroy the mitochondria, but at the top of the list is sugar and foods that turn into sugar very quickly, like refined carbohydrates, like starches, breads, pasta, cereal, crackers, biscuits, waffles, pancakes, muffins, things like that. And when we talk about sugar, the majority sugar in the U.S. is beet sugar. And the majority of beets grown in the U.S. are GMO. So we not only have this refined sugar, we have this GMO type sugar, which has traces of glyphosate, which is an herbicide, which I'm not going to even go there, but I just want to make you aware of that. Also, the amount of fructose that we consume from drinks, sodas, high fructose corn syrup is a lot different than glucose. Okay, so we have fructose, which is only metabolized by your liver. All the other cells in the body can't metabolize this fructose. So when you're consuming large amounts of fructose, you are overwhelming the liver and overwhelming the mitochondria deep inside the liver. And so if we compare fructose with glucose, glucose is actually much better than fructose. But you have to realize even table sugar is half glucose and half fructose. Honey, the same thing. And when we consume this refined sugar, it's very, very unnatural because we don't have the normal antioxidants that come from like the natural sugar that with sugar cane, or even that come with fruit when you consume fruits, which is high in fructose. So how does that relate to the mitochondria? Well, this is what happens when you consume a lot of sugar, glucose, or things that turn into sugar. What happens to the mitochondria is it becomes damaged. Okay. Now, the purpose of the mitochondria is to turn fuel into energy with the help of oxygen. And so now with a dysfunctional mitochondria, we now create a hypoxic, low-level oxygen state. And from that starts to be created other oxygen molecules that are very reactive to our bodies. Without getting too technical, the category of these things are called ROS. And I don't want to get into complexities, but just realize that when you have a mitochondria that is not able to use the oxygen, you start developing a lot of oxidative free radicals and a lot of things that create more damage. And they're created because we don't have that oxygen. So they're derivatives of oxygen that are highly reactive and damaging to your cells. And so it's those oxidating factors that create the complications of glucose. They create the damage from diabetes, for example. They create mutations inside the DNA of the mitochondria. Mitochondria are very interesting. They have their own DNA. And real quick, the history of mitochondria is they're bacterial derived. A long time ago, bacteria morphed with cells to form this symbiotic relationship that apparently, over a long period of time, ended up in our bodies. So the mitochondria, the energy factories in our cells, actually originated from bacteria. And apparently we formed an agreement with them that they specialize in producing energy, and we'll feed them, okay? We'll eat and feed them, and we'll give them a home. But they give this focused machinery to produce energy. And they also have their own DNA. But when we consume too much sugar, we get damage of the mitochondria, we get hypoxia, lack of oxygen, we get mutation within the DNA of the mitochondria, we get decreased numbers of mitochondria, we get a lack of fuel produced by the mitochondria, starving off your cells, as in Alzheimer's, for example. The mitochondria can't work, we can't produce fuel for the cells. And what happens in cancer is the cell, as a survival mechanism, gets its fuel outside the mitochondria in other places. A different pathway. It's very rudimentary. It's very crude, and there's not much energy generated from that. And so the cancer cells have to compensate by hogging up as much fuel as they can. And sugar is one of the fuels that they go after hardcore. But there's a tremendous amount of oxidative stress, they call it, that's produced from these damaged mitochondria. And the oxidative stress is kind of like this high level of oxidation with, at the same time, a low level of antioxidants. And this is why when you consume a lot of refined carbohydrates, you're getting in this refinement process a lot of sugar, but without all the protective mechanisms that normally come in nature, like antioxidants, that can normally counter all this oxidation. And so that equals inflammation, cell damage, and especially damage to the mitochondria itself. There's something else that's really interesting that happens when you consume sugar. You get a decrease in what's called mitophagy. Now, what is mitophagy? Well, there's a condition called autophagy, which is the recycling of old damaged cells, and that's a good thing because your body goes into the state where it can clean up damaged mitochondria and replace them with new mitochondria. And then that's a really good thing to prevent cancer and avoid all the complications that happen with damaged mitochondria. But sugar inhibits that ability for your body to recycle mitochondria. And maybe you've heard of the test from diabetes. It's called A1C, right? That measures the amount of damaged protein in your blood. It's damaged hemoglobin. Because when you combine all that high level of sugar with the protein, you damage it. That's called glycation. So that glycated protein, that damaged protein, can't be cleaned up as effectively with the sugar in your bloodstream. So that leads to a whole bunch of problems. And then now we have a hypoxic state in the mitochondria, which increases the risk for getting cancer. It now has to generate a lot of lactic acid that can build up in your cells. You get a severe deficiency of thiamine, B1. Now, B1 is probably one of the most important nutrients in the mitochondria to allow everything to work correctly. The more sugar that you consume, the more B1 or thiamine that you need. And so when you consume a lot of sugar, you deplete your B1 reserves. And what comes next is devastating, especially in the case of a diabetic. Their complication is peripheral neuropathy, mainly due to this B1 deficiency that creates a lot of nerve damage. And so this is why one of the great remedies for peripheral neuropathy, which is the bottom of your feet becoming numb or tingling or burning, or your hands, is taking B1. B1 will pretty easily resolve that condition, or at least that complication from the high levels of sugar. But also with a B1 deficiency, there's a lot of other problems that occur too. An anxiety state, a lot of nervous tension, a lot of excessive thinking, insomnia, nerve damage in other parts of the body, and also damage in certain parts of the brain that have to do with memory. And then another thing that gets depleted in the mitochondria from eating a lot of refined sugar is zinc. And zinc is also needed to make sure your mitochondria are bulletproofed or protected. And without zinc, you get dysfunctional mitochondria. So you just might want to think about the next time you eat that Krispy Kreme donut or that candy bar, you have to just be aware of what this sugar does to the deeper mitochondria in the cells that set your body up for a cascade of issues down the road. So the question now is, what can we do to improve the mitochondria? Well, the number one thing you should do is go on a low-carb diet. It's called a ketogenic diet. Cut out sugar, cut out these refined carbs. You're going to feel better immediately. And you'll probably find that you won't be depleting your B1 anymore or your zinc anymore. And also, there's other nutrients that you won't be depleting anymore too. The next thing is exercise, especially high-intense interval training, but other types of exercise will also be beneficial to boost your mitochondria. And this brings up another point about athletes that are doing all sorts of like long-distance marathons or triathlons. They typically consume a lot of carbohydrates and a lot of sugar, and you might be saying, well, how come they're able to do this with all that sugar? Well, exercise can overcompensate, and exercise alone stimulates the mitochondria. Exercise protects the mitochondria. Now, of course, I don't recommend that as something that you can do to continue to eat sugar, because I know a lot of athletes that when they consume this sugar, they have a lot of side effects, they have a lot of problems and complications. But the point is that because exercise strengthens the mitochondria, it tends to nullify some of the complications from the high level of sugar. Now, you might also be thinking, well, what about the people 100 years ago? They were a lot healthier than we are now. And yes, they were healthier, but they weren't a lot healthier. But I will say in the last probably 40, 50 years, the amount of sugar has increased, the amount of fructose has increased, the amount of snacking has increased, the amount of added sugar has increased, and all of that has been devastating. But think about even like several thousand years ago. Were people eating healthier back then? Not necessarily. They've extracted these mummies, and they've looked at the teeth and the arteries and the bones of certain mummified bodies. And they had periodontal disease, they had cavities, they had problems with their teeth, problems with arthritis, and they consumed a lot of flour products, breads. So this is not necessarily just a new thing. It's been going on for a long time. Now, another thing that can help improve your mitochondria, if we were to look at like cold water immersion or cold therapy, it's the cold therapy, okay? The very uncomfortable, taking the cold shower, or the cold bath immersion that can stimulate your mitochondria way more than heat therapy or saunas can, simply because of how uncomfortable it is and also how our bodies were developed to survive during wintertime and actually increase more mitochondria when we get cold. Nowadays, everything's become very, very passive and comfortable, okay? We get to eat 24/7. We get to stay in a really nice environment inside our homes, not out in the sun. And by the way, being exposed to the sun does increase your mitochondria. And not eating so frequently, as in fasting, greatly stimulates your mitochondria. Certain epigenetic, shorter, stressful things can improve our mitochondria, like going into a higher altitude or training in a higher altitude can stimulate your mitochondria to adapt and become stronger. So a certain amount of stress is good. Chronic stress can definitely affect our mitochondria in a negative way. Insomnia lowers the mitochondria in our body. A good night rest can enhance our mitochondria because we recover. And of course, alcohol inhibits the mitochondria. But on the flip side, you can eat certain things that will increase mitochondria, like phytonutrients. There's a lot of different plant-based chemicals, resveratrol, quercetin, the phytonutrients in green tea and garlic can all boost your mitochondria. Not to mention the dependency on just basic nutrients that support the mitochondria. There's this thing in the mitochondria called the Krebs cycle that maybe you've learned about, and I'll guarantee rarely anyone understood it back then. You'd have to really play around with it to really grasp or wrap your wits around it because it's a very complex machinery. But the simplicity is your body's turning food into energy using oxygen. And to do that process, you have to go through a bunch of steps, and your body requires B1, B2, B3, B5, and coenzyme Q10 and other nutrients. But those are some of the basic nutrients that support the mitochondria. So if you made it this far, you now have more awareness on what sugar does to probably one of the most important parts of your cell called the mitochondria. And getting off sugar is going to be extremely therapeutic to your overall health because it's something that you can do to actually create health, to help bolster your mitochondria. Versus in our healthcare system, which I'm still trying to find the health in it because we don't really create health, is all about taking all of these diseases that are really metabolic in origin and treating them with drugs which inhibit the function of your mitochondria. Now, since we're on the topic of sugar, I've created a lot of videos on sugar, but if you haven't seen this one, I think you're going to find it very interesting. I put it up right here.
Hello healers, my name is Ben, and this is the Moss Report. I'm here today with my father, author and founder of the Moss Report, Dr. Ralph W. Moss. Good morning, Dad.
Good morning, Ben.
I've been feeling rather sentimental in the build-up to making this recording, as we are celebrating a few different anniversaries. The first is the anniversary of your birth that we've just celebrated 80 years ago. So congratulations and happy birthday again.
Thank you.
I'm sure our audience also wishes you a happy birthday.
Thanks.
And we're also marking 50 years from our relocation from California to New York. And then the subsequent year, you started working at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center in New York City. And that was the beginning of your career as a science writer on the topic of cancer. And our involvement as your family members, peripherally, and in some cases directly, as that career developed. And I'm also recollecting, and I was thinking about, my, I think, earliest experience participating in the production of the Moss Report, which occurred when I was in my teens. And I recall very clearly you telling me that you needed my help. And I was very enthusiastic about wanting to do that. And in particular, it was around something to do with this very topic that we're going to be discussing today.
Yes.
And I'll just briefly share that story with our audience, just as a little backstory.
91, gue butuh 9 lagi. Aduh.
So I guess I was probably
Kok gue capek
15
ya,
or 16
anjing.
years
Baru jam
old,
segini loh,
and
what
you
the
had
fuck?
said that you had coming over from Japan a couple of Japanese scientists who were doing interesting work researching the benefits and the properties of medicinal mushrooms, in particular the species of mushrooms that are prevalent in Japanese culture, maitake and shiitake and others. And that these, and in order to be prepared to receive them, we needed to sort of scramble to set up some camera gear, which we didn't own at that time. And I remember going to the store and making the purchases of the tripod and that high-8 camera, and then we set it all up with microphones, and I mean it was a big production for us. I think we rented a space, or we had access to some office space somewhere, and
It's a hotel, I think.
and anyway we set up the camera gear and recorded them talking to you, and then we had a translator, a gentleman named Mike Shirota, who the footage of you talking with Mike is the only thing that I could actually find of those recordings. Unfortunately, somehow the actual recordings of the Japanese scientists are lost, and I wasn't able to put my hands on them. But I definitely recall very clearly you having those conversations and talking with Mike Shirota about this subject in English, although the other scientists did not speak English.
Dr. Namba, I think, was the name. Namba.
We're naturally skeptical
Mhm.
of claims that are made that,
Yes.
you know, you can somehow inhibit cancer growth and so forth. Are these studies, is this hearsay, or are these published in regular scientific journals?
All the animal studies has been published since 1986 in several Japanese journals, academic journals, as well as international journals.
So that was a long time ago, over 40 years since that recording, and we're still talking about and producing content about medicinal mushrooms.
Yeah.
In your opinion, what is the most significant scientific study to date